everybody. I am Priya Rao with the First Weekend Club. I am very excited to have these two lovely ladies with me to discuss a just beautiful film, a very important film called Rustic Oracle. We have the writer and director, Sonia Bonspille Boileau. Welcome, Sonia.
Hi.
And Carmen Moore, who plays Susan. Hi, Carmen.
Hello.
We are so sorry that we couldn't go live, but of course, technical difficulties has been the death of us this week. The last couple of times we've tried to go live, and in all our tests, it's been totally fine. So what can we say? Anyways, we are going to make sure that questions that you do have, you can ask on the Facebook post, and these lovely ladies have agreed to go in and answer your questions over the next couple of days. So if you do have comments, questions, just post them in there and we will get you some answers. I wanted to start off by saying, first of all, congratulations to you both, because this was such a beautiful film and beautifully shot. It's so gorgeous, and beautiful performances all around. So congratulations, Sonia, in the casting, because that is so important. Can you talk not about Carmen so much? Carmen is an established name. We've seen her. We will get to her. She's here. But I want to talk quickly about Ivy and just the kids in general, because finding great actors is hard enough as it is, but finding great child actors is a real challenge. And you found a gem, not only in Ivy, but also in the young girl who plays Heather and some of the other supporting cast. So let's talk about your casting process and how you found these amazing little talents.
Yeah, well, like you said, you can't take the normal route that you take, right? You can't just rely on casting agents and agencies, especially in this context. Obviously, it was really important that I had an Indigenous cast. So right there, like, you're narrowing your pool. But I was actually quite surprised to receive so many self-tapes. Like, we put a call out to all communities, and from all different nations as well. And it turns out that, like, in kind of almost in my own backyard, there was like this hidden gem. Because Lake is from Ganawage, which is not my community, but it's a sister community. So it's another Mohawk community. And so she had played in a short film by Devery Jacobs, and Devery is the one that knew that I was looking for people to audition for the role, and she sent Lake my way. And the big difference, and I kind of knew at that moment, is a lot of the kids, there were some very talented kids, very talented girls, and the difference was when the actor was giving the lines in the audition, for the callbacks, after the self-tapes, the callbacks, what I would ask the actor was to change the way that he was giving out the lines, just to see how the kids would react to those changes. And most of the kids stuck to what they had rehearsed, with their parents, right, and stuff. Like, they stayed in there and what they, were comfortable with. And the beauty about Lake was she was instinctively able to play off of what the actor was giving her. And to me, that showed like a sensitivity and an instinct that you can't necessarily coach. You can't direct that. It's either they have it or they don't, in a way. And for me, that was the moment that I thought, okay, well, this is it. This is Ivy. She had this beautiful playfulness to the way she was, and she was actually, when we were speaking, like, off camera, she was really, really shy and soft-spoken. And but then when she got into character, she took up all this space, and to me, I fell in love right there and then. And almost the same thing happened with Mackenzie, who plays Heather. There's just something so captivating about her smile and just her presence. She's so beautiful inside and out. She didn't have any experience either. She just saw the casting call and wanted to try, and she was great. And they became so close, like, they're best buds now. Like, they call each other sisters, and so it didn't take long for them to mesh. And it kind of happened with Carmen as well. Like, they became this family, and they're still, to this day, 2 years later, like a family, and that's pretty awesome. I feel very fortunate to have witnessed all that.
Yeah, and that really came across as well in the performances, especially with the two girls. It's funny that you say that they're best friends now. They had such a natural sisterly banter. It didn't feel forced. It felt very natural, and it was really fun to watch. They had the little side glances and everything.
Yeah, and those moments weren't necessarily in the script. Like some were, but some were, we kind of just let them flow. And I think that also, like, because they're so close, it just, yeah, naturally flowed like two sisters would actually talk, you know?
Yeah. Now, before we get to Carmen, I want to let people know the film, if you haven't seen it yet, is called Rustic Oracle. And I want to ask you about the title, but the plot is about young Ivy and her mom, Susan, who go in search of Heather, who is Ivy's older sister, because she ends up missing. And some of the stats that you quote at the end of the film were really, really shocking to me. 4,000 Indigenous women and girls missing over 40 years. So this
missing or murdered, yeah.
Missing and or murdered.
Yeah.
And this is something that has become so much a part of our conscience in the last few years because of the inquiry into that. But it's been going on for a long time before it was in the mainstream, consciousness. You don't call yourself an activist, I noticed in a couple of the interviews, and yet this film, political, social film. So if you don't consider yourself an activist, what do you consider the role of this film in that larger sort of world of, this being a part of our consciousness now?
Well, honestly, I think when I write scripts, I write from things that actually affect me, that hurt me or bother me, or that I need to get out, or I need to work on to understand. So there's a lot of that went into Rustic, but also I'm a filmmaker, but if I'm going to make films, I want them to maybe help be forms of examples of activism, but I'm not an activist. I don't consider myself an activist at all. But if I have the opportunity of having a platform like film, I do want to use it for the greater good and for change, for something that's useful. I'm not just going to make a film to make a film. I want it to be meaningful. I want it to leave a mark. I want it to open up a dialogue. I want it to help people heal, to help people understand. And most importantly, I just want people to feel. I want people to feel for families that have gone through this process that the family that I wrote is going through. I want people to understand that behind the national inquiry and behind this whole thing of the politics of it and the big statistics and all that, there are human beings who are living this. There are families grieving, there are mothers still in search of answers, and it's all those things that I wanted to convey, to get people to feel empathy for them. So, yeah. And I is that activism? I don't think so, but at the same time, I want to be part of the solution, and I feel like if I have the opportunity of making films, I want them to be meaningful.
And that is actually a perfect segue to talk to Carmen, because your portrayal of Susan really does make anybody who's watching the film and feel for the family. And I love the line when you are in the police station and you ask the detective or the police chief if he has any daughters, because to that point, he's sort of being very dismissive, very nonchalant, and it's when you say that something kind of changes in him. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk about when you read the script and then your entree into this film?
Oh, when I read the script, oh my goodness, I was deeply affected because, I'd been following this epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women for some time. And, you know, you see bits and pieces of these stories in the news and in different films and TV shows, but this was a completely different angle than I had seen before. And I loved Sonia's writing. Sonia, I love your writing so much. It was so beautiful to come at it from the perspective of this 8-year-old girl being so lost and helpless and being kept in the dark, and you know, being a child going through that, where the adults are just either they're just so distracted with what's going on that they don't have time for you, or they're trying to shield you from, you know, what they think they're protecting you from. And, you know, just like any other human, they just want answers as well. They just want to know what's going on, because there's, you know, there's such, to feel secure, you need answers, especially a child, right? So reading the script, I was blown away by her writing. I was deeply moved by the story and honored to have the opportunity to represent the families that are actually experiencing this, and to tell a tiny piece of these mothers' stories.
Mm-hmm. Your relationship with Ivy was also so beautiful. At times I felt like I was watching two different films, or two films currently. One is the story of this, you know, obviously of the missing daughter and the search for the missing daughter. And the other one was sort of a tale of a mother-daughter, just a mother-daughter story, like a road trip story almost, without the horrible reason behind the road trip.
Yeah,
there's
well,
so
that's
many
the brilliance of Sonia's writing.
Yeah, and it's so many beautiful moments within the overall, you know, heartbreakingness of why they're on this road trip. But one of those points, leading off what you were just saying, Carmen, was when Ivy says, "But I'm here," you know. And so for the kids, even though she was suffering, like she's suffering because she is missing her sister and she doesn't understand what's going on. But at the same time, she's still an 8-year-old daughter with her mom who just wants some attention and wants to laugh and to listen to music in the car. And I just thought, first of all, you're right, the writing brilliant, to be able to bring such a natural humanity of, she's still just a child. Like every minute of her day is not occupied by the fact that her sister's missing, the way it is for Susan.
Yeah.
And I really loved your relationship with her. It was just, there were so many beautiful moments.
There really were. And again, it always comes back to Sonia's writing and directing, that, you know, to create those characters, and there was just so much to dive into. And then working with Lake, of course, we talked about Lake and her beauty, and she is very easy to play off as well, where, you know, sure, she's a child actor and she's playing off what we're giving her, but she's giving so much back. So it was, we found some pretty cool moments.
There's mutual love. There was a lot of mutual love.
So much.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful. It was a beautiful experience that I think for me is going to be its own little bubble. Like what we lived that summer together, there's something very powerful with you know how it all unfolded, but also like, okay, so many different examples, but there were times where it was really hard because some scenes are very emotional, and you know, we needed time to breathe, or to like have those moments where we would allow ourselves to, like, you know, break down and cry. But we had so much loving support. There were a lot of Indigenous women in the crew, in the cast, so that we kind of felt that love. And Lake's mom, Cookie, who became like everyone's mama bear, at some point she even told us that, you know, it's okay to use this as a grieving process. Like, you're allowed also to use this, because the reality is the women are here with you. they're here with you telling that story. And that's always something that like, I have a hard time talking about that. But and I think that we, instead of like seeing that as like, oh my God, we need to do this right. I felt like a blanket, like just holding us and you know, just allowing us to push forward and to move through and to tell the story. And it was pretty unique, I think. Yeah, pretty unique.
And that, as you say, like there were a lot of Indigenous women in the crew, because you really worked hard to have a very representative cast and crew that way. And so I don't even have to ask why that was important to you, but I can see the impact that can have to have the community be part of a story like this, which is not just a story. It's something that the communities are experiencing still to this day and have been for generations. So I can't even imagine what that must have felt like to have sort of all those arms physically as well as spiritually around you during the filming of this.
Yeah, we even had a family in my community who's lost a loved one, and is her sister is an advocate now for missing and murdered Indigenous women, and she was part of the entire process of the film, and her family is actually in one of the scenes. And every time I see the film and I get to that scene and I see them, it always like grabs my heart, you know, because for them, just being able to take part in telling the story was part of their healing journey as well. Sure. And, you know, and to that, for that reason, everything else kind of, I don't know, like for me, that is more important than getting into festivals and this and awards and all that. That becomes like just like secondary to how it can help some people like that family, you know.
And I read in one interview you had done that you actually had T-shirts printed for the cast and crew with the name of their daughter on it.
I didn't do that. That was Cookie that did that. Cookie made T-shirts for some of the crew members with another missing Indigenous woman from her community. It wasn't the same family, but it was another one. That's, you know, just to show you how many there are. Like we represent two different communities and we both have our stories, you know. And she made T-shirts for a bunch of people. Yeah.
And you talk in a lot of interviews about how you wanted people to remember on set that we're not just telling a story, that there are real women behind this story that we're trying to remember. And at the beginning of the film, you have a bit of a disclaimer or a warning that it might bring up some traumatic emotions for people. Have you taken this film into the communities? How has it played to the community themselves?
We haven't traveled in communities yet because of the pandemic, but the very first screening of the film, the very, very first screening that we did was in my community. I wanted to make sure, first of all, that they were okay with the film, like they would support it. It was shot in the community. I wanted them to feel privileged to be like the first people to see it. But mostly I wanted their approval before, you know, throwing it out into the world. And it was emotional at the end for sure, but not as emotional as the premiere in Vancouver. And that I didn't really expect it. It was very naive of me not to expect that, but I didn't expect people to share their stories at the end in the Q&A. Like it opened up a lot of it brought back memories for people, but I think it opened up a wound in some people, but they needed to express, I guess they related to the characters in the film and they wanted to share. And that was, and I'm sure Carmen remembers how hard that was to receive that and to find ways of like being a support for those people, even though I'm not equipped to support that, you know? And so now we know that now, like when we will, because we are going to travel in communities with the film, but we're also going to provide support for people in case it does trigger things, because, you know, in no way, shape or form did we want to make a film that was going to hurt people. Like, it's quite the opposite. So if it is going to trigger something, we want to make sure that we come equipped with the right people to have those right words to comfort those people after the screening.
Yeah, so that you're not just sending them home with open sores.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, like, Carmen, you remember at the, like, everyone was in tears, and I was like, oh no, I almost felt bad for making people cry, but at the same time, I, like, after speaking with people, I realized that it was a good cry.
It was a good cry. It was cathartic. It was film is therapy sometimes, or it can trigger that moment that is needed to be like, oh, this is the thing that I haven't dealt with yet, and maybe I need to take a look at that. So I'm hoping that's where people go with it.
And Carmen, like, you're a mom yourself in real life. This role, and I said to you before we got on camera here, I just said that seeing you in real life is it's so dramatically different from the character you play. Your face even looks different, and because you have such a lightness, and you know, obviously this character could not have lightness. It must have been really yeah. And to embody that for how long was the shoot?
But we do like 19 days, 20 days?
30 in total. What? Yeah, 30 in total.
I wasn't 30.
But you still had, I think it was like 26.
I had some days.
Yeah, 26. Yeah. And we had a full week of rehearsal, but it wasn't necessarily like rehearsal. It was more just discussing the hard scenes and getting to the heart of things. But I knew, like, I don't want to steal your answer, Carmen, but I knew from the very beginning that Carmen was Susan. Like, the first, because she still sent the audition, even though in the back of our minds we kind of knew that it was going to be her. And in the audition tape, I was like, holy cow, this is her. It's definitely her. To a point where I was, after that, I was like, I think I subconsciously wrote it knowing it was going to be her. And there were so many hints after to that. There were so many, like, twists and turns and links between me and Carmen that for sure it was like written in the stars that it was going to be her. Because, okay, well, just real fast. For years, Carmen played in Blackstone, and she played a woman named Leona, and Leona is my mom's name. Like, there's not that many people, you know, named Leona in life. And then I met Carmen's mom, and Carmen's mom's name is Susan, which is the name of the character that I wrote for her. So there's all these, like, links to our own moms. That to me was like, okay, this is so meant to be.
Invisible threads. Yeah. Pulling her to you. Yeah.
And Sonia and I are basically like the same person.
We are the same person. It's crazy. She got off the plane the first trip because a few months before the shoot, like, we wanted to get to know each other, and I wanted to show her my community and all that. So she flew into Montreal, and we spent a few days together, and she literally, like, walked, like, off the plane and whatever. And I was like, hi. And then she went, hi. And then we hugged, and we both had our hands up like this. It looked like a mirror, you know? and we were both, like, ridiculously giddy and happy. And then we just started talking and, like, did not shut up for 5 days.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then we communicate with, like, sound effects, and we know what each other is saying. It's very strange.
Yeah. Hand gestures and sound effects. That's our thing.
It's like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, totally got it. Yeah, totally.
So Carmen, what was that like? Do you remember actually what scenes you auditioned with?
I auditioned with the kitchen scene talking to the police officer, where he's interviewing, saying, don't worry, she's probably at a friend's house. She'll be back tomorrow. That one. And then I can't remember the other one. There was 2 scenes.
I think it's the motel room scene, I think.
Yeah,
like the backstory,
the telling of the father story. Yeah, those 2 scenes and the monologue. Yeah.
So being a mom and when you read the sides for this, like, how do you prepare for that audition?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because you want to bring a piece of you into it, of course. Most of the time it's letting the character drop into you. But in order to access that real emotion, you have to tap into real life. So thinking about what it would be like for me as a mother to go through something like that is really, really difficult to do. But I think it was needed in order to get that realism across.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard shoot. It was very hard. Yeah. And I try not to think about that now. Yeah.
Well, it really made me also watching, because I don't have kids, but I have a mom, and it made me so thankful, like, you know, like for moms and what sometimes we forget and we just take our moms for granted because we're older, we're adults, and sometimes we don't have 20 minutes to get on the phone with them and stuff. And then there are times when you think, yeah, but she carried me for 9 months. She took care of me. She, like, all that she did, and that mama bear of what moms will do for their kids. Yeah. It really made me very, very thankful, and also feel horrible for not making more.
Moms,
you know, but
moms are a force. They are a force.
Yeah.
Everybody go call your mother.
Exactly. That is the moral of the story. I did want to ask about the title and what the meaning behind that is.
Yeah, well, I get that question a lot, and I actually quite enjoy it.
Hey, me too.
Well, Rustic Oracle is actually a poetic term for a dandelion in English literature. And throughout the entire film, there's like a metaphor with flowers and, well, first of all, Ivy, Heather, Susan, all flower names. So there's something about, you know, growing and blooming. So there, you know, it is a coming of age film in a way, you know, like Ivy's coming of age a little bit. So there's that, but there's also like the actual dandelion. The dandelion is the most powerful flower that exists, right? Like, it has the strongest roots. It carries medicine. It can grow anywhere. It can tell time. It can cure diseases. It can carry your childhood memories into the wind if you blow on the seeds. All these beautiful things, and yet we see, as a society, see it as a weed, as opposed to seeing it for the powerful flower that it is. So, not that I want to compare dandelions to Indigenous women, but there's like a metaphor there as to like how we see versus what it really is. And the power and the beauty of something, and refusing to see it for that beautiful thing and seeing it for something else. And then there's also the Ivy is an oracle, and in with her dreams, but also with, you know, she comes in at the right moment with the right information that actually moves things forward, but in a way that she's not really aware that she's doing that. So she's kind of just like this oracle in a very rustic environment. So there's that as well, that Ivy and herself is both a flower and an oracle.
That's beautiful. And I've always loved dandelions. I never allow people to pick them out of my yards because I've always thought they're just beautiful bursts of yellow light. Why would you want to pick them up?
And if you are going to pick them, then make, you know, jam or tea or make something out of it.
Exactly. Throw them in your salad.
There you go.
So we're very excited that your film is opening theatrically. It had an amazing run in Quebec. So congratulations, you were extended 3 times, which is very rare for Canadian films. And we're so happy that it's had the opportunity, and, you know, maybe this crazy time period has allowed it to be held over, whereas sometimes Canadian films don't get that opportunity. But it will be screening here in Toronto as of this Friday at Yonge and Dundas, Cineplex Yonge and Dundas. So you have to go see it if you have not seen it already. It will be running for a week at least. And if you guys all go see it and tell your friends about it, then hopefully it will also be held over here. Plus, Sonia, can you tell us about where else you plan on rolling it out?
Well, it will be coming out on the West Coast. So Carmen, I'll keep you posted on that. I can't really announce the date yet because we are still finalizing the details of which screens, but it will be out west. And then I think that'll probably be it for like a big theatrical. We'll probably do certain days in certain smaller cities, but we're also looking at our VOD release sometime later, hopefully before Christmas.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's no surprise why the film has garnered so many rave reviews and awards galore for you, Carmen, and for Ivy, or for Lake, I should say. So congratulations on all the success it's had. It's such a lovely film, and I hope everybody will go and see it. It's an important one, and something to remember, that we can't just consider this as something that's happening over there, because there are people behind every missing woman. So thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
We hope to be able to say that the film is being held over. You can find all the information on where it's screening on our website. Thank you to all our sponsors and to Telefilm Canada, who was also part of the production of this film. And you received the Feature Film Award from the Women in the Director's Chair. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
Just a great film.
Thank
Have
you.
a lovely day, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Remember, post your questions, because they will come back and get back to you. Bye, everyone.